Hi there and welcome to Big Creative Training. My name is John and I'm a game design tutor here, and I'd like to show you a little bit of 3D modelling and rigging. So we use a variety of game design software here, and one of the main ones that we use is Blender. Blender is a great bit of kit to learn the ropes of modelling, texturing and animation in 3D. It's great because it's also free, so you can download it and have a play with it at home, and I'd highly recommend giving it a go. Once you get stuck into it, it's a really nice bit of software to use. So I'm going to create just a general plain empty project to work with here, and I'm going to create this, use this cube to create a basic sort of low poly arm that you might see on a low poly character, and then rig it to show you some animation principles. So when you load up a scene in Blender, you're presented with a cube, camera and a light, and it's very easy to remove anything from the scene by selecting it and hitting X to delete. And I encourage everyone on the course to really get to grips with the shortcuts, because it will save you a lot of time and really speed up how you use the software. So I will be using shortcuts throughout, and I'm on a Mac, so it's centered around the command key, but on a PC it will obviously be control. So to move around your viewport, you're going to use the mouse and shift, and when I want to rotate around the space, I just hold down the scroll wheel, my middle mouse button, to rotate around. If I hold down shift and the middle mouse button, the scroll wheel, I can drag the scene around, so if I'm grabbing it, and then if I zoom in and out, then I use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. So Blender has two modes to work in when you're editing. This is called object mode, and this is where we can make changes to the entire object. So I can move it about, I can scale it, and I can rotate it. And those tools are all available from the side here. And if you hover over them, you can see the shortcut. So move is G, rotate is R, and scale is S. So I like to use those shortcuts because it saves you a lot of time. So I'll hit G there and then I move it. If I don't want to actually place it there, I can do Command Z to jump back, or if I'm still in the process of moving it and I change my mind, I can hit right mouse button to return it to where it was. That's object mode. In edit mode, you hit tab, and it allows you to actually make changes to the mesh and the models themselves. So here the same tools apply, but I'm only affecting vertex, the vertices. So these are the corners. If I hit 1 on the keyboard, it also takes me to this mode. Hitting 2 takes me to edge mode, where I can select the edges, and hitting 3 takes me to face mode. And as you see, when I press 1, 2 and 3, it changes on the top left here. Again, you can select them from here, but your life will be a lot easier if you're just using those shortcuts on your keyboard. The thing I'm going to do with this is I'm going to drag this out up here, and I'm going to create a little hand with a thumb at the top. And then I'm going to move it around and sort of position it as you'd expect to see on a character. So when I'm in edit mode, if I use the same shortcuts for move, scale and rotate, they all work the same way. So for example, I select this face, hit G to move, and it moves the entire face. And then right click to cancel. I also have lots of other tools, and Blender is absolutely jam-packed with lots of modeling tools. I'll show you a few basic ones now. If I wanted to bring this up, then I could use the extrude tool, and extrude allows you to create new detail, new faces and edges. So if I hit E, which is the shortcut for extrude, and drag that out, you can see it calls out a new face for me and creates that extra detail. Let's do it one more time. And you can see this time I'm going to go to around here, and I'm going to make it kind of cuff, like the edge where it joins the top of the hand. So I want this to kind of come out a little bit, flare out. So with the face selected, I hit scale, and you can see now I can make this larger or smaller. I now want to kind of go in to the hand, so E to extrude a little bit, and then scale it in. My hand is going to be thinner than the actual pose, so I want to drag this square and make it thinner. And I can do that different ways. I can select the edges and move those in, scale those in. Or I can scale and just constrain the scale to a particular axis related to the handles up here. So if I hit S for scale, it's going to do it free, it's going to do it overall. Now if I hit X, it snaps the scale to the red line. If I hit Z, it will not do anything because it's snapped to the blue line, and that's up and down, and I can't do that. Or Y, it will snap it to the green line. So I want to scale it along the X axis, and that brings it in. So just for clarity on that, if I go back to object mode and I want to move this, but I actually just want to move it along the green line, then hitting G and then one of the axes, X, Y, or Z, then move it in that direction and keep it stuck to that axis. So G and then clicking X, Y, or Z will do that. And that works for scale and rotate. So let's go back to the start of my hand here. Now I'm going to bring this up and bring it to the bottom of the hand. So again, with the face selected, I hit E, bring it up a little bit, and then E one more time and scale. So that's going to be the bottom of my hand. Let's bring it up. And I'm going to pull this face out from my thumb in a sec. And then bring it out one more time to the kind of edge of my knuckles. And then again to the end of my fingers. Another way to make changes to models is to select edge loops. And edge loops are edges. So if I go to select the edge loops carry all the way around the model. So for example, if I wanted to select this entire edge loop around here, if I click on one of the edges and use Alt, it will select the entire ring or edge loop. So if I were to Alt and click on this one, it selects the entire ring. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to sort of bring these in a bit and make them thinner. So I'm going to scale it in just a little bit. And then this one, let's see, Alt to select it all. And if it doesn't do that, then that means it's not an edge loop. So if it does that, I'm going to have to hold down Shift and select all of the edges. Scale that in a little bit, and you can see that's sort of tapered off a little bit to create the impression of the end of the hand and fingers. Let's do the same thing with your thumb. So keep it simple, scale the thumb. Zoom out a little bit. Good, there we go. And then Alt to select the edge. So Alt and click, and scale it down a bit. Another way we can move around the scene is to select the button above the Tab key, below the Escape key, and you can move between different viewports. So if I go to front view, you can see what it looks like from the front, top, and left and right. So I can make changes to the entire thing this way. So let's say if I wanted to make this larger, I could go into edit mode, select the top of the model and bring it out. Things get slightly confusing now because you can see that I dragged over this to select these, but you would expect it to select everything and it hasn't. And the reason why it doesn't is because it works on the section that it can see in the viewport. So even if you drag over things and you think, oh yeah, I've got it all selected, it's a good idea to sort of rotate around and have a look. And to be able to select everything in this view, you want to turn on X-ray mode. And X-ray mode allows you to kind of see through the model, makes it sort of transparent. So now when I select everything, it actually selects everything. So it's just a little trick to selecting everything. And I'm going to just pull that up a little bit. So let's make it a little bit longer. I'm also going to select this edge loop. So Alt and click. And I'm going to move this up a little bit as well. So let's say around here. And that's going to be my elbow. With it all selected, I'm going to use a tool called Bevel to just soften the corners. Select all, Bevel, and just very lightly bring that out. And with this still selected, I can make further changes. So let's just zoom in a bit and show you what it does. Segments, if I drag this up, you can see it makes a really soft edge. I don't want to go that crazy, so maybe 2. And width, that's where it went a bit crazy before, so you can see it can go too far, too much, but you can make some nice changes. So actually, you know what, I think I'm just going to go with 1 and keep it super simple. Right. I've got my low poly arm, and in front view, if I was sort of imagining this as a character, I kind of want the arm over here and angled in a slightly different way. So I'm going to go to Object Mode by Tab, move this with G over to here, and rotate it sort of down. So you can imagine on our character, the head would be around here, our torso, legs, and the other arm would be here. So you can kind of see in the 3D space where it's positioned now. Now what I want to do is actually add some rigging to this and be able to modify the mesh with an armature, bone structure. And in order to do that, I need to add in some armature. If I go to Shift A to add, or come up here to add, I can add in bones, and bones live under armature, so I'm going to go for a single bone. And this is what it looks like. So these are bones in Blender. Now obviously my bone needs to get over here, and that's nowhere near where I need it to be. So I'm going to come out of Edit Mode, select that, and delete it. Now you'll notice that this little round cursor here is where things are being added. So if I move this around, wherever I have that, if I do Shift A and add the bone, it's going to add it there. So now I've got little bones everywhere. And then delete those. Now the 3D cursor, this thing, can be moved around by clicking the right mouse button and holding Shift. And you can snap it to objects as well. So this is going to be handy for us if we want to add a bone to the arm. You'll see here on the arm there's a little pivot point, this point here, and that is where our cube started, so it's at the centre of the cube. I can move my 3D cursor to this pivot point by using Shift S and selecting cursor to selected, and that moves the cursor to my arm. So now when I add in a bone, Shift A, armature, single bone, it will add it there, which is kind of good, but I need my bone to come down this way. So in Edit Mode, I can move this around and extrude out. Let's just move it to beneath. So Tab, G, move it down to around where the O is going to be. And I kind of jumped a step there, but the tool still works. So hitting E extrudes out another bone for me. When I select these joints and move them, you'll notice that the bones change to match. So this is really quite cool. You can get really good bone structures going for your ribs. So this is going to be my shoulder, this is going to be my elbow, and this is going to be my wrist. So let's extrude it a few more times. So joint selected, hit E, use it to about where my knuckles are going to go, my thumb, this. One more time to next knuckles, and then another time to the edge. So you can see I'm in X-ray mode, otherwise we wouldn't be able to see it. And I've got some bones inside my arm now. Alright, let's hit the V key and bring one of these out for the thumb. So this one, let's move it up a little bit, so around here, and extrude. Okay, how's that looking? You can see that it's perhaps a little bit off where it needs to be. It's a little bit lower than I'd like it. So I'm just going to move these up a little bit. Nice. Alright, cool. So you'll see in the view here we've got armature for the bone and cube, which is our arm. You can rename anything here and change it up. So there's arm, and then there's armature. Now when I make any changes to this armature, it's not going to affect the actual mesh until I parent it and attach it. So to do that, what you do is you select your mesh, the arm that you want to be able to manipulate with your rig, your bone, and then hold shift and click on the armature. And this way they're both selected. Now you need to parent it. So if you do Control P, you get the Set Parent To menu, and you can set it with automatic weights. That also lives up in Object, Parent with automatic weights. Now I have attached my armature to the arm, so you can see that it appears in here. Finally, I just want to actually move this and pose it. So armature has three modes. You've got object mode, edit mode, and they work exactly the same way as we've seen. It also has pose mode. Pose mode allows you to move the bones and it will deform the mesh accordingly. So if I select this bone and hit R for rotate, you can see it start to move the arm. If I come up to here and rotate, you can see it moves it up. And these rotate can be set to the axis like I showed you, so X, Y, and Z. And when you rotate other bones, you can see that previous bones move with it. So that's why it's great for rigging and animating, because you can make changes to these and the bones below will sort of stay in shape. And there we have our rig. So hopefully you've kind of got grips with a little bit of basic rigging and modelling in Blender. I hope it's been useful, and this is sort of the stuff that we do in game design. Hopefully if you're successful in the application, you get to explore the amazing world of Blender with us. Thanks for your time.